welcome to our last episode. I hope you have been receiving blessings all along, and I hope you were blessed by this series. It was a series that was simplified so that even a child could understand. This is the last episode, episode 11, the Ark of the Covenant. We're entering the most holy place. Friends, before I proceed, I ask you to subscribe. Click the subscribe button below. And don't forget to comment and to ask questions, even if you want more of these presentations on the sanctuary. If it's not enough, if there are questions that you have and you want to learn more, please put it on the put it on the comment box. Please just put it there. We will try to honor your requests. Your comments, your questions, the subscription, the likes are really appreciated with warm hands. Please do so. As we proceed with our presentations, now we are entering the most holy place. In the most holy place of the sanctuary, there was the ark with its cover, which is the mercy seat, because the ark contained the words of the covenant, the 10 commandments. It is frequently called the Ark of the Covenant. And Christ himself also, who spoke the law from Sinai, is called the angel of the covenant. Now, before I go far, there's something very crucial I need to highlight here. The law of God was given in Mount Sinai, and when the law of God was given, the 10 commandments, people were told that they needed to enter the covenant. Because when we talk about the covenant, you will understand why we're focusing on the law right now. People were told that they needed to prepare themselves. God says, according to the book of Exodus 19, if you want to be my people, my nation, kingdom of priests and holy nations, you need to obey my law. And people says all that the Lord has said will do. So in order for people to enter the covenant, a covenant requires terms and conditions. And the law of God was a conditions. The 10 commandments were conditions. In order for you to enter the covenant, you needed to adhere to the conditions, which is the law of God. So if you break the law of God, of course you're going to be outside the covenant. So now this is called the Ark of the Covenant. And it's so interesting that the Ark of the Covenant, on top there's a mercy seat, which is also called propitiation. That's where mediations take place. So the mercy seat, the grace and mercy, and the law, justice and mercy. Oh, I know you are already thinking about something else, but anyway, let's not go ahead of our lesson. According to the book of Exodus chapter 25 verse 11, the Bible says, "And they shall make an ark of shittim wood, and thou shalt overlay it with pure gold. Within and without shall you overlay it pure gold." The Ark of the Covenant was made of pure gold, was overlaid with pure gold, made of shittim wood. That's what we are told from this verse. Right. Now, if you continue verse 17 of Exodus 25, we are told also that thou shalt make a mercy seat of pure gold, and you shall put the mercy seat upon the ark. So on top of the ark, so you have the ark, box, shittim wood, and then there was a cover, and then on top there was a mercy seat that was placed there. That's what we see. And it's interesting that the law of God is inside the ark. It's not outside the ark, because the law of God was placed inside it. So the law was put into the ark and covered with the mercy seat. A symbol of the seat is actually a throne, or of the ruler. So a throne, somebody will sit on the throne. That guy is a king, or that person is a king. So this was the safest place in all the universe, and shows how supremely sacred heaven regards the law of God. His fundamental law, the constitution of his universal government, the law of God, was actually in the Ark of the Covenant itself, and it was placed in the most holy place, where we say the high priest has to enter there once a year. And even when the Ark of God, even when the Ark of God could be taken by the Philistines, by the way, they couldn't get away of the law inside the ark, because everybody who touches there and you're not of the priests, you are going to die. Why? It shows us that God regards the law as very crucial. And by the way, we said the mercy seat suggests the idea of the throne. We are told that God rules on the throne. According to the book of Psalm 97 verse 1, the Bible says, "The Lord reigneth, let the earth rejoice, let the multitude of isles be glad thereof." Verse 2 says, "Clouds and darkness are round about him. Righteousness and judgment are the habitation of his throne." Oh, wait. Righteousness and judgment are the habitation of God's throne. Now, if you look at the Ark of the Covenant, then what is in the sanctuary, and we are told the mercy seat is on top, and that's where God, the Shekinah glory, that God will meet his people. Actually, you will come to an understanding of why this language is used in the book of Psalm 97, that righteousness and judgment are the habitation of his throne. So in other words, the foundation of God's judgment, or of God's throne, or God's government, it's actually the law. Because righteousness, according to Psalm 119 verse 172, are told that thy law are righteousness. So the law of God is righteousness. So when we say righteousness and judgment is the foundation of God's throne, we're actually saying the law of God, which demands justice, is actually the foundation, and not only that, actually grace. So the law is the foundation of God's throne. To destroy this law will be to undermine his throne and to overthrow his government. So that's why in the book of Isaiah 14 from verse 12, when we read about Lucifer in heaven, you know that the primary issue that Satan was fighting against was the law of God. So when you enter the most holy place here, you know that you are entering to an area which Satan attacks the most. He started attacking this path from heaven, but guess what? He failed to get rid of the law. Why? Because in order for him to get rid of the law, which is the foundation of his government, you need to get rid of the guy, the man who is seated on the throne, which foundation is the law. So he failed to get rid of God, and God got rid of him. He got rid of him. And as a result of that, he still continues here on earth to get rid of the law. But the law is in the ark. The law is in the ark. The law is in the ark. There is no place in the Bible where the character of the law of God, its sacredness, its validity, its immutability, its perpetuity, and its relation to our salvation is so naturally, so plainly, so forcefully presented as in the most holy place of the sanctuary. Satan, whose enmity against God's law resulted in his being cast out of heaven, will have men believe that God's law is a yoke of bondage, but James, inspired by the Spirit of God, calls it the perfect law of liberty in the book of James chapter 2. And actually in James chapter 1 verse 25, Paul in the book of Romans tells us, of 1 John chapter 3. In 1 John chapter 3 verse 4, the Bible tells us, John says, the transgression of the law is our bondage, the bondage of corruption, according to Romans chapter 8 verse 21, from which those who obey God shall be delivered. And John says his commandments are not grievous. In fact, in keeping the commandments of God, we show that we love God and that we know him, as in 1 John chapter 5 verse 3, verse 2, 3 and 4. God's law is the law of love. It's not a new commandment. This is what many people make a mistake. The law of God is not a new commandment. The law of love is not a new commandment. It's actually the commandment of old. It was there from the beginning, according to Deuteronomy 5 verse 6 to 22. The new commandment, which is spoken about, which even Jesus Christ mentioned, which he said he came to give to the world, was actually the old commandment stripped of all its man-made regulations. So the old law, when you remove the man-made regulations, it becomes the new commandment. But it's not really new, because the new commandment of love was there in the Old Testament. In Deuteronomy, people were told to love your neighbor, love God. So it's not, the law of love is not new. It was there in the Old Testament, but it was made to be a yoke. That's why Christ came to remove it. And now upon the ark, mercy seat, then there were cherubims. And those cherubims were told in Exodus 25 verse 18 to 20, and thou shalt make 2 cherubims of gold, of beaten work shalt thou make them, in the 2 ends of the mercy seat, and make 1 cherub on the one end, and the other cherub on the other end, even of the mercy seat shall you make the cherubims on the 2 ends thereof. So I told that the cherubims were supposed to be made and to be put on top of the ark, and the cherubims shall stretch forth their wings on high, covering the mercy seat with their wings, and their faces shall look one to another. Toward the mercy seat shall the faces of the cherubims be, we are told. And God says, chapter 25 verse 22 of Exodus, and there I will meet with thee, And I will commune with thee from above the mercy seat, from between the two cherubims, which are upon the ark of the testimony, of all things which I will give thee in the commandment unto the children of Israel. Psalms 80 verse 1, the Bible says, Give ear, O shepherd of Israel, thou that leadest Joseph like a flock, that thou dwellest between the cherubims, shine forth. So that which dwelleth between the cherubim, we're told, is shepherd of Israel. God himself. He used to meet them right there. And the cherubims, they were covering the mercy seat where God will meet them. And that shows, of course, the reverence. You talk about the reverence and the sacredness of God, that the angels, they will have to cover the glory of God. And in the ark thou shalt put the testimony that I shall give thee. And he gave unto Moses, when he had made an end of communing with him upon Mount Sinai, 2 tables of testimony, tables of stone, written with the finger of God, which had the golden censer and the ark of the covenant overlaid around about gold, wherein was the golden pot. So in the ark there was the law, and there was also the golden pot that we read about from the book of Hebrews chapter 9 verse 4. And not only the golden pot, there was also a rod of Aaron. Now the question that I want to ask, which leads us to the end. Now the question is, what was in the ark? So we're saying in the ark there was the pot of manna, the 10 commandments, the Aaron's rod, which was in the ark, which is recorded in Hebrews 9 verse 4. Now the question is, where is the ark now? From the time of Solomon until the capturing of Jerusalem by the Babylonians in AD or BC 606 BC, the ark with its sacred treasure was unmolested. At that time, the righteous men, according to prophets and kings, righteous men under the faithful witness of Jeremiah, determined to place beyond the reach of ruthless hands the secret ark containing the tables of stone, the 10 commandments. With mourning and sadness, they secreted the ark in a cave where it was to be hidden from the people of Israel and Judah because of their sins, and was to be no more restored to them. That's why, friends, wait a bit. I have asked myself questions when I read the book of Daniel chapter 1. We are told that when Nebuchadnezzar went to Jerusalem and he captured the children of Israel and the temple of God, the temple of Jerusalem was burned down, we are told that he took vessels and all the treasures of God out of the house of God to the house of their gods in Babylon. I asked myself a question. So what happened to the ark of God? But it's so fascinating to learn that actually before that happened, the ark of God was secretly, the men faithful under the leadership of Jeremiah, they took the ark and they hid it in the cave. So when the Babylonians came to capture them and took all the vessels from the house of God, the ark of God was not there, was hidden in the cave. And that ark remains in the cave, never to be restored. That is interesting. After the return of the Jews from the Babylonian captivity, the temple was restored, but at its dedication, no cloud of glory was seen to fill the newly erected sanctuary. The Shekinah no longer abode between the cherubim in the most holy place. The ark, the mercy seat, and the tables of testimony were not to be found therein. No voice sounded from heaven to make known to the inquiring priest the will of Jehovah. No wonder that many of the ancient men that had seen the first house wept with loud voice as they saw the temple that was built by Zerubbabel. They were like, trying to compare. They were like, there is no glory here because it was not restored. Of course, in the book of Haggai, chapter 2, we are told, in Haggai chapter 2, we are told, verse 7 and 8, that there was another glory, the perfect glory that was coming. So they were crying at the temple of Zerubbabel that there's no glory there. And Haggai said, don't worry, The desire of all nations is coming. Jesus himself, he's coming. And the glory we beheld is glory according to the book of John chapter 1 verse 14. We beheld his glory. So we no longer behold the glory in the ark. That ark was never to be restored. But now we're to behold the glorious in Jesus Christ. Wow, interesting. But the question still remains, where is the ark now? Oh, I was glad when I read the book of Revelation chapter 11 verse 19. The Bible says, and behold, the temple in heaven was opened, and I saw the ark of the testament. And therein you saw the ark of so the door was opened in heaven, and the ark was seen. In other words, in the heavenly sanctuary, the ark is there. And in that ark, there is, we know, the law of God. And in the book of Revelation, there's a structure of the book. The way it's structured is so interesting. Chapter 1 to chapter 11 is the first part. The last chapter, chapter 12 and upward is another structure. So this is how the structure is divided. In chapter 1 to chapter 11, Jesus Christ is in the holy place. So his movement is just in the 7 candlesticks. That's why chapter 1, 2, and 3 have 7 churches, 7 seals, 7 trumpets. All these things are happening in the holy place. Then you transition now from chapter 11 verse 19 is the transitioning point, that because you see that the temple is opened. Now we're moving from the holy place into the most holy place. So Jesus' ministerial work in heaven, the sanctuary, is now happening in the most holy place. That's why we believe that the investigative judgment began right there in the most holy place in 1844. Of course, we believe that. Of course, if you want to learn more, you can put your comment. I will try to talk about that, to address that, to say why are we saying in 1844 Jesus moved from the holy place to the most holy place. But what we see from the text is that the temple was open, and then there was a movement. Now the events that are taking place from that time of Revelation 11 verse 19 upward, they are taking place in the most holy place. That's why Revelation 14 comes, and verse 7, the Bible says the hour of his judgment has come. So when the temple was opened, and now Jesus is moving from the holy place into the most holy place, then in the most holy place there's the ark, that we're talking about, and the judgment now has begun. The hour of his judgment has come. Therefore, friends, this chapter, or this ark of the covenant, is one of the most crucial ark, one of the most attacked ark, because in it there is a law of God hidden there in the ark. And Satan may try, he will never take it away. And it is this law that Satan fight against, and God intentionally put it inside the ark, and no man could access it inside the ark. And now it's even in heaven. Imagine, it's there in heaven, because what was made here on earth was actually a shadow of what is in heaven. So now in the heaven, the sanctuary, we have an ark. Inside the ark, we still have the law of God, and that law is still binding today. No one should ever say that the law is not binding, because Satan fights the law. In the book of Revelation chapter 12 verse 17, we are told that he was angry with the woman, he went to make war with the remnant of the saints, the remnant of her seed, which keep the law of God and have the testimony of Jesus. And the Bible says in Revelation 14 verse 12 that here's the patience of the saints. Here are they that keep the commandments of God and have the faith of Jesus. Those who keep the law, Satan fights them. Friends, let's go back to the sanctuary. As we transition into the most holy place, we see that the law is still binding, because we are going to be judged by the law of liberty, according to James chapter 2, verse 12. So the law is still binding. And hence I said, the throne of God, the foundation of God's throne is the law. And the sanctuary was demonstrating that clear. Friends, let's keep the law of God. Of course, not by our own strength, but by God's strength, we can keep it. It's not a burden, it's easy, according to 1 John. Thank you so much for watching these episodes. Stay blessed, friends. And don't forget to indicate. Don't forget to indicate if you want to learn more. May the Lord bless you.